everyone. My name is Tanya. A very warm welcome to all of you. I will be your moderator in today's session of Ask the Experts with Azure Networking. So I will tell you a little bit about the session and introduce our speakers. So a few tips on how we'll be engaging. First of all, you can use the chat in order to ask any question, and we'll be publishing those questions for everyone else to view. We have a series of moderators who will be reviewing the questions and answering those over chat. And some of the questions, the interesting ones, will be picked up to be answered on the video. So before I get into introduction of our experts, few things to keep in mind. This is a recorded session. I will request you all to kindly help our moderators and not spam the chat window or put any inappropriate comments. We'll also be adhering to the Microsoft Code of Conduct that will be pasted on chat, and you can have a look at it. Now, let us meet the experts. So we have Azhar Hussain, Program Manager with Azure Networking, and he has been working on the application delivery space. We have Amit Mishra, Program Manager with Azure Networking, and he's handling the Azure region buildouts and easy expansions. We also have a couple of offline experts who will be answering the questions on the chat windows as well. So with that, we already have a couple of questions that were asked, and they have been popular with the attendees. And the first question, Azhar, that is around the load balancer and application gateway front. So can you tell our attendees, like, what is the difference between application gateway and Azure load balancer, like when to use which one? Azhar?
Sure, Tanya, happy to help out. So Azure actually provides various load balancing services. So you have the application gateway, the Azure front door, the Azure load balancer, and the traffic manager that you can essentially use to distribute your workloads across multiple computing resources. Now, in particular, the application gateway is a layer 7 load balancer, which means it works only with web traffic, your HTTP, HTTPS, or your WebSocket kind of traffic. And it has support for capabilities such as TLS termination, cookie-based session affinity, path-based routing, your header and URL rewrite options, to name some. While the Azure load balancer, on the other hand, operates on layer 4 and can be used for load balancing incoming TCP and UDP traffic from the clients. Now, depending on the kind of traffic that you expect for your application, we do have reference architectures as part of the public documentation, which should be really helpful in making the right choices for your setup. Back to you, Tanya.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Azhar. Okay, so next question is around our recent announcement of Route Server public preview. Amit, can you help us out with, what is exactly Azure Route Server? Is it just a VM?
Sure, Dania. Yeah. Hey, everyone. So yeah, we recently announced Azure Route Server. And so it's a fully managed service that allows you to easily manage routing between your network virtual appliance and your virtual network. So it essentially simplifies dynamic routing between your network virtual appliance and your virtual network. So basically, let's say if you have an NVA that supports BGP routing protocol, so the routing information can be directly exchanged between that NVA and the Azure software-defined network in the Azure virtual network. So also, and this service is a fully managed service, like I said, and it is highly available. So if you deploy this service in any of the Azure regions that support availability zones, so you will have zone level redundancy as well. And one more thing to note is that the service is in public preview currently, and we'll be keeping you with the updates. Back to you, Tanya.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Amit. Okay, so the next question that we have is around the AFT space. So Azhar, probably this goes to you then. So the question is, what is the difference between the front door and AFT standard and premium SKUs? Azhar?
Right. Yeah, I'm glad that this question has come up. So there's been an overwhelming need for a single unified platform, which essentially caters to both dynamic and static acceleration with turnkey security integration built in. And along with that, you also need to have a simple and predictable pricing model. Now, the standard and premium Azure front door SKUs, which are currently in public preview, combine the essential capabilities of your Azure front door, Azure CDN standard, and Azure WAF into a single secure cloud CDN platform with intelligent threat detection. Now, what that essentially means is that your existing global load balancing and intelligent layer 7 routing capabilities that came with your Azure front door are now complemented with the Azure CDN capabilities to provide both static and dynamic content acceleration, as well as extended with the WAF capabilities to provide essential features such as port detection, your traffic and security reports as well. Back to you, Tanya.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Azure. Okay, so the next question we have is around the key updates on load balancer that have been GA'd recently. Amit, can you pick that one and share some updates?
Sure, Tanya. Yeah, we recently introduced a lot of key updates in our load balancer. And so starting with, I would like to talk about cross-region support. So Azure Load Balancer now supports load balancing across regions based on health and latency. Then we also have this provision to retain public IP addresses while performing SQ updates. So if you are moving from a basic to standard SQ, so basically our customers are now enabled to retain the same IP address for services that require standard IP front ends. We have also integrated monitoring support, and that will provide you load balancer insights through Azure monitoring. That's another upgrade that we have recently introduced. And we have IP-based backends as well now. So that essentially means that this enables IP addresses to be reserved as part of backend pool of the load balancer before the associated resources are even created. And addition and removal of resources from backend pool by IP address is now possible. With respect to resource group moves, standard load balancers and standard public IP addresses support cross-resource group moves, enabling easy management of resources at the resource group level. So yeah, these were some key updates that I wanted to discuss. And Tanya, back to you.
Awesome. Thanks, Amit. Okay, so the next question we have is around the virtual WAN space. And we have recently announced the VeloCloud partnership with the VMware. Azure, can you tell us something more about this partnership?
Sure, Tanya. So essentially what this partnership allows us to offer to our customers is the ability to leverage the best of both worlds seamlessly and effortlessly. So now enterprises can essentially leverage the expansive global virtual WAN capabilities that comes with Azure, together with VMware's SD-WAN feature sets, to greatly simplify their essential configuration, their security and last mile internet connectivity. All of this at the end of the day ensures that applications which our clients which our customers are running on their setups have really high availability and performance. Yeah, back to you, Tanya.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Azure. So the next question we have is around the routing preference. So our attendees want to know what exactly is Azure routing preference. Amit, can you share some pointers around that?
Sure, Tanya. Yeah. So routing preference, Azure routing preference is a new feature that is introduced, which essentially empowers our customers to choose how their traffic routes between Azure and clients on the internet. So there are two paths, two options. So one is through Microsoft Global Network that leverages 180 plus edge sites to deliver most traffic in the most optimized fashion. And another way is through the public internet that uses transit internet service providers network. So while routing via Microsoft Network delivers traffic, like I said, over an exceptionally reliable private global network and optimized performance, and ISP network gives you obviously some cost optimization. So these are the two choices that we have introduced with Azure routing preference. Okay. Back to you, Tanya.
Thank you so much, Amit. So the next question that we have from our chats is around the application gateway. So the question is, when will be the mutual two-way SSL authentication on Azure Application Gateway available? Azure, can you share some inputs on that?
Sure. So mutual TLS is something that is currently in the works. We are currently live with the private preview for that. So if you're interested, there's definitely like areas where you can onboard and start testing out the feature set itself. We do look forward to going to public preview shortly. And eventually GA with that, but we're happy to get your feedback based on the current feature set as well.
Thank you so much, Azure. Okay, so the next question that we have from our chat, I think probably Amit, you can help us answering this. So the question is, years ago, Azure was speaking about VNet peering across regions. Is this still a goal or is it abandoned now? Amit?
So sure, Tanya. Yeah. So it's available right now. Actually, Azure supports cross-region peering now, and the feature is called global VNet peering.
Okay.
Over to you, Tanya. Yeah.
Thanks, Amit. Awesome. So the next question is kind of a follow-up question around the virtual WAN space. So Azhar, maybe you can help us answering. So there are a couple of new remote user connectivity features that have been GA'd recently. Can you throw some light on what those new features are?
Sure, Tanya. So as part of the Ignite announcements, we've had a lot of exciting new features which have come along this remote user connectivity feature set. So maybe I can cover the top 2 or 3 most relevant feature sets over here. So I think one of the most exciting ones has been the added support for over like up to 100,000 remote user base to be able to connect to a single virtual WAN hub and access mission critical workloads and resources which are gated behind your on-premise networks. So this is essentially important today, considering the worldwide lockdowns which have been in place. The second thing I would probably say is the support for multiple authentications. So this essentially allows customers to use different authentication types, whether it be certificates or whether it be the Active Directory or Radius, on a single point-to-site gateway, thus providing maximum flexibility for hybrid deployments. And I think a third option, a third feature set that I would want to talk about is the added support for dual radius servers. So what that essentially allows our customers is to connect to multiple radius authentication servers to a single virtual WAN hub. This essentially ensures high availability authentication services for remote users. But apart from these, the GA announcement as well as the public documentation would cover all of these as well as a few other features in a lot more detail. Back to you, Tanya.
Thank you so much, Azhar. Great. So the next question is kind of a follow-up question on the routing preference, Amit, that you answered. So we want to know, where can we see the cost savings with routing preference? Do you have some pointers there?
Sure, Tanya. Yeah, that's a good question. Yeah, so essentially, what you can see is that during egress data transfer, the price varies based on your routing selection. So like I mentioned before, right, Microsoft Global Network, if you leverage that, so that is more performance optimized and it helps you exceptionally in terms of the quality and the reliability of traffic that is delivered and the most optimized fashion. But if you choose there for the egress data as a cost optimized route, so there is basically essentially you will see the pricing difference that will be comparatively lower compared to Microsoft Global Network.
Okay, awesome. Thanks. Thank you, Amit. So the next question is around the application gateway front. Others, maybe you can help us with the answer. So our attendees want to know, what is the advantage of using AGIC AKS add-on?
Sure, Tanya. So essentially what AGIC or the application gateway ingress controller, it's essentially a Kubernetes application, which makes it possible for AKS customers to leverage the application gateway as the L7 load balancer in front. So AGIC continuously monitors the Kubernetes cluster it is hosted on and updates the application gateway's configuration by default. So now what this allows you to do is it eliminates the need to have another separate load balancer or a public IP in front of your AKS cluster. And it essentially avoids multiple hops on your data path before the request actually reaches to your Kubernetes cluster. Right. So now the primary benefit of using this AKS add-on, which has been announced as part of the Ignite announcements, is that it is essentially much simpler than deploying through the existing method of using Helm. For now, what you can do is whenever you deploy a new application gateway and a new AKS cluster with AGIC enabled as an add-on, you can essentially do all of this with a single CLI line. And
Hello. Hey, Azhar. Like we lost the audio to Azhar. So probably we will move on to our next question. Hey, Azure, you're back. Do you want to complete your response?
Yeah. So the primary benefit that I wanted to talk about is that the cost of deploying the AGIC AKS add-on is essentially extremely low. It's essentially a single CLI Azure CLI line that you have to use. Along with that, you have complete added support of automatic updates with this. But I do want to stress upon the fact that currently both ways of deploying AGIC, whether it is via Helm or through the AKS add-on, they are both currently fully supported.
Okay, awesome. Thank you so much, Azure. So the next question, Amit, this goes to you. Is resetting a VPN connection faster than the VPN gateway? And what does actually happen in the backend while doing that? Can you answer that?
Sure, Tanya. Yeah. Tanya, can you repeat the question, please?
Yeah. So is resetting a VPN connection faster than the VPN gateway, and what actually happens in the backend?
Got it. Thank you. Yeah. So when you select to reset a connection, the gateway does not reboot actually. So only the selected connection is reset and restored.
Okay, awesome.
Yeah.
So, okay, so I think the next question to you again, Amit. So the question is around the routing preference. So the question is, can I enable both routing preference choices for my storage account or virtual machines?
Yes, actually you can. So routing preference gives you the flexibility to enable both routing preference choices. So for example, let's take a scenario where you have a virtual machine. So you can create two separate public IPs, one with routing preference that will be routed via Microsoft Global Network, and the second via ISP network. And then you can attach both of these public IPs to the same network interface. Or you can also have two separate network interfaces, one with public IP type Microsoft Network, and another one with the public IP routed via ISP network. Likewise, if you have a storage account, your primary endpoint is routed via Microsoft Global Network, and you can publish a secondary endpoint by publishing routing specific endpoint for ISP network. So it definitely can be done, Tanya, depending on the scenario and context. Yeah, and the kind of endpoints you want to address. So maybe the primary endpoints, we can have it in a way that it is always routed through the Microsoft Global Network, and the secondary endpoint through the ISP network.
Awesome, awesome. Thank you. So I think the next question to you again, Amit. So the question is, how will we get access to the private previews? Can you help answer that?
Okay. So with respect to specific features and announcements and releases, right? So there are certain documentation that are available on our doc portal. So I would advise our customers to go through that and see if there are some steps mentioned for that. Now, for some features, we may have to whitelist your subscription as well. So you'll find the steps documented in the doc portal.
Okay, thank you so much, Amit. So the next question we have, probably Azhar, you can help us with that. So the question is, we were told about the new Azure router service, which would simplify the route management in cooperation with NVA. Can you tell us more about this new product? Is it some kind of replacement of manual UDR records? Azhar?
Yeah. So essentially, what that means is that you no longer have to rely on manual UDR updates. You can update the routes via BGP with the route server itself.
Okay, awesome. Thanks. Thank you so much, Azhar. So the next question, Amit, maybe you can help us answer. Can you expand on using Azure front door versus application gateway in front of Azure API management?
Sure, Tanya. So, Tanya, for this specific question, I think we have detailed descriptions in one of the blogs on APIM with App Gateway. So, I would request we can share the link of that blog, and our customers can go through that. So maybe one of you can paste the link of this blog in the chat window.
Okay, thank you so much, Amit. So guys, please keep bringing your questions. So we are just reviewing those and we'll pick a few ones to answer. Okay. So the next question we have, maybe Amit, you can help us answer this again. Are there plans to support a failover for public IP from one region to another region? For DR, would be this nice to have with public IP on a NVA or a VM? Amit, do you think you can provide some inputs on that?
Sure, Tanya, yeah. So an IP address itself is regional for a given VM, but you may be able to use the preview available for Azure Load Balancer to use cross-region load balancing to achieve cross-region. With respect to DR, and any other option may be to move the scenario to front door if the scale and capabilities are a good fit. So it depends on details what you're trying to achieve exactly. So again, we have some very good resources for this, which can be shared. And I will advise our customers to go through this and get more details on this.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Amit. So we have a couple of more minutes left. So probably we'll take a couple of questions. Okay, nice. Give us a second. Okay. So the next question, recently we got the possibility to use Azure VPN gateways to encrypt express route services peering connection, but it is also a supported scenario to deploy a regular site-to-site tunnel using Microsoft peerings. The latter requires a public IP range and an ASN, but overall seems to be very interesting. What's your take on that, pros and cons? So I believe, Azhar, you can help us answer the same.
Sure. So VPN and ER can coexist. So there's a lot of positives to do that, and I think it's better if we post a link for that document itself. If someone could share that link, that would be great.
Okay, sure. Thanks, Azhar. Please keep your questions coming, guys. Okay, so the next question we have is, can I set up a point-to-site virtual private network to connect my laptop to a virtual network on Azure without the need of any extra hardware? So Amit, do you think you can answer that one?
Yeah, Tanya, yeah, definitely you can. So you can either spin up Azure VPN Gateway or use virtual WAN point to site gateway. Yeah.
Okay, sure.
Again, we can share some documentation as well on this. Yeah.
Sure. Thank you so much, Amit. Okay, so hopefully we have, I think, a couple of more minutes left, so we can take one or two more questions. Okay, so we have a question here. Is there a centralized global cloud router in Azure that can interconnect all VNets and on-prem VPN links? Amit, can you answer that?
Hey, Tanya, yeah. So I think for this particular question, we have vWAN Hub to spoke connectivity options. Basically, there are some connectivity options, and we can definitely share some documentation around this, and yeah, that will be helpful for this particular question.
Okay, sure. We can share that over the chat then. Okay, so maybe we can take one more question. So Azhar, just wanted to know from you, since you're from the application delivery space, do you want to share any more pointers around the recent announcement or anything before we get the next set of questions? Any views on that?
Hey, Tanya. Sure. So I think two primary announcements around the delivery space. Like one has been the public preview for the AFD standard and premium SKUs. So I think there's a lot of great details which has been put across over there. And the other announcement is around the GA for the AGIC AKS add-on. So I think for folks who've been using AKS setup with the application gateway, I think that would be really great for them to use in terms of their new greenfield deployments, as well as for folks who are looking for global load balancing solutions on the AFD side. And they've also been utilizing CDN as a separate entity. I think it would be great for them to try out the standard and the premium SKUs of the Azure front door options now.
Thank you so much, Azhar. So we have one more question, maybe Amit, you can provide some inputs on the same. What is the recommended way of troubleshooting routing and traffic flow issues in Azure when using virtual networks? Amit, can you do some pointers?
Sure, Tanya. Yeah, this is a very interesting question, and we hear this from a lot of customers. So given the frequency of this question that we have heard in earlier discussions as well, so we have a very nice documentation that captures some of the very important essence of troubleshooting your connectivity problems. So we'll be definitely sharing that, and that will be really helpful. Apart from that, I just want to highlight that we have a fully fledged Azure monitoring solution that gives you very detailed insights on points around traffic latency, and you can even get details on the port level analysis. So using Azure Network Monitor, so basically that can also help you troubleshoot all those traffic flow issues. So we'll be sharing the links and portals we can share with them.
Thank you so much, Amit. Okay. So we have one more question, maybe before we wrap the session up. Maybe Amit, you can help us answer that. So is there a way to communicate from Office 365 resources to Azure without going through the internet?
Okay, yeah. So all communication between Microsoft services remain in Microsoft private global network. It does not flow over internet. So let me clarify that first, yeah. And then traffic between Azure and Office remains on Microsoft private global network.
Okay.
So we don't have, does not flow over internet.
Awesome, awesome. So I think we are almost, at the end of the session. I'm just seeing if we have any more questions that we want to answer. Just give a couple of more seconds. Okay. Okay, awesome. So I think we are almost, at the end. So thank you so much, Azhar and Amit, for your time, and all the offline experts as well who have been answering the questions, over the chat. I hope you all, gained something from the session and had your queries answered. If not, we will try to get back to you. So we do have a couple of, resources. We have a technical community that you can join, and we have Learn at Ignite, which will have all the, session details that are going on. So thank you everyone for joining the session, and have a good day. Enjoy the rest of the Ignite. Bye-bye.